I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all members of the Housing and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Panel, officers, members and members of the public and press in attendance at today's meeting of the 18th of September 2024. Welcome to those who may be watching the meeting live on YouTube. I am Councillor Steve Clark, Chairman of the Houses and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Panel. I would now like to hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Hello. Please note this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. Please could those in attendance use your microphone when speaking and switch it off when you've finished. Please switch any mobile devices to a silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarm rings, please can everyone leave the room immediately using the nearest fire exit. Do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point located at the bottom of the car park by the garages.
Thank you. For the benefit of those watching the meeting online, please remember to introduce themselves during the meeting if not already introduced by name. Item 1 of the agenda minutes. Members happy to me to sign the minutes as a true record? Thank you. Item 2, are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 3, we have no public participation. We're now going to go to item 5. We'll come back to item 4. So I'd like to welcome Peter Cheeseman, Matt Wickham. It says here Samantha Eshelwood on my us there. Sorry, I'm looking that way, not that way. And Paul Doyle from Freedom Leisure, who will be giving a presentation on their annual report on the New Forest Leisure Centre partnership. Can I invite, first of all, Paul Duknovsky, sorry, I think that's the Contract Relationship Officer, to give a brief introduction.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick introduction to our partners. My name is Pav and I'm a Contract Relationship Officer, directly responsible for monitoring our outsourced leisure contracts. We invited our partners today to present annual performance updates. Please welcome the team from Freedom Leisure to my right, represented today by Samantha Eshelwood, newly appointed Area Manager for New Forest Contract. Welcome, Sam. Paul Doyle, Regional Manager for Southern Region. Matt Wickham, who is Freedom Leisure Chief Operating Officer, and Peter Cheeseman, who is a former Area Manager for New Forest Contract and newly promoted National Commercial Manager. And to my left, team from my time active, who is currently managing our Dibden Golf Centre, Chris Dedman, Head of Special Projects, and Adam Freeman, who is newly appointed Centre Manager for Dibden Golf Centre. I would like to hand over to Peter Cheeseman, who will be presenting annual performance update for Freedom Leisure.
Thank you, Pav. Good evening, everyone. I'm Peter, as Pav said, and I'll be taking you through the Year 3 New Forest Partnership Report. I'm just going to move this path. So starting with the strategic objectives and purpose, which have not changed whatsoever since we came into the partnership, and simply put, we're here to improve lives through leisure. We do that naturally by investing in our colleagues, spending time with our partners, and ensuring that our customers get the very best experience and service that we can offer. We're much more than just finances, obviously being a local trust. So we also monitor and focus on the following 7 points on the screen now, which I won't go through all of them because I'll go through a little bit more in detail through the presentation. But the ones that stand out for me is the improved increasing participation, reducing negative environmental impacts, and supporting active communities, which, like I said, I will go into in a little bit more detail shortly. Key performance update number 1, which is our fitness memberships, which is essentially any membership that a customer pays through a direct debit or a paid in full subscription. And as you can see on the screen, we have seen significant growth over the last, really from the start of the partnership, but particularly in the past 12 months. So we've increased our membership base by approximately 1,700 members and approximately 1,200 members from November last year, which is a key date because that was when we invested significant money into 3 gym refurbishments, which I'll come on to shortly. But as you can see, significant growth, which is brilliant to see because naturally that's seeing more people participate in and being in the leisure centres. Next key performance indicator that we wanted to update you on was our Learn to Swim memberships and our scheme. So as you can see, not quite the similar, same growth as fitness, but really positive growth nonetheless. And we help 4,800 people learn to swim every single week, primarily children, through all of the stages, working with Swim England across all of the 5 centres across the New Forest. It's just a side note to say that the utilisation across the partnership is approximately 79%, so which is a really nice spot to be because it allows for further growth, but also allows for a really positive environment for those attending those classes. So capital project number 1 to update you on was Applemore. That was back in November, December. I'll never forget because it was also the birth of my first child. So I was managing a few things there. But we invested approximately £250,000 into Applemore's gym, and that wasn't just equipment, that was the environment, flooring, decor, aircon units, all sorts of things, and it really has come a long way, and it's one of, I personally think, one of our best gyms across our group, and that's actually resulted in over 600 membership growth over the last 12 months. So clearly what we've done there has worked really well. Membership growth supports that, but also the customer comms support that as well. It's also worth noting that we increased our fitness instructor resource at Applemore at the same time to ensure that the influx of members that we expected to see and we did see were receiving as best a service and experience as possible. At the same time, we also did Tottenham Health and Leisure Centre's gym refurb, which was not quite as much as 250,000, around 200,000. And yeah, again, resulted in some fantastic growth, 330 over the last 12 months. And again, much like Applemore, we put in additional fitness resource to ensure that members could have inductions, they could speak to someone, the cleanliness, the maintenance, etc., was being upheld to the standard that we would expect. And the last big capital project that we've done over the last 12 months is, again, a gym refurb, but this time at New Milton. And again, significant money spent, again, not just equipment, but the whole environment, branding, flooring, everything. So really ripped it out and put in brand new, and again, resulted in 350 growth over the last 12 months, mainly coming off the back of the gym refurb. And again, we've added more resource into New Milton as well. So it's 3 really positive capital projects to update you on. Total capital spend over the 3-year partnership is just over 3.8 million, which is approximately £300,000 above the big commitment to date. So we are absolutely delivering our capital commitment spend and some at the moment. And as you can see from the graphs that we've already shared, they're working well. Health communities update, key thing for me is really probably what we all get into health and leisure for, is to support communities and drive participation, particularly among sort of hard to reach groups. And there's two areas that I really wanted to update you on today, which was our GP referral scheme, which is a best practice really across Freedom Leisure. It's seen significant increase, which I'll come to in a second, but we offer a number of different activities and services from chair yoga, health circuits, to all sorts of different rehabilitation classes. And we have seen an increase of just over 2,600 participants across that scheme over the last year compared to the previous year. And we've added additional resource on the ground floor, if you'd like. So we've got more instructors, more colleagues that are delivering these types of sessions, and we're working with approximately 30 practices and partners in one way, shape or form to try and drive even more people to these services and classes. And for me, this is a really important one, and it demonstrates really what Freedom Leisure are all about and how we can improve lives through leisure. The second one is the picture, the antenatal swim membership, a brand new membership that we launched. Wasn't necessarily in a big commitment or anything like that. It was an idea that we had. Me and Pav had actually worked together before in a different capacity, and we launched it there. And essentially, pregnant ladies can pay £20 to swim for 1 year, as much as they want, which has worked really, really well. It's very welcomed, and just sort of demonstrates, part of our commitment to improving lives through leisure. Customer experience. So we collect customer experience in lots of different ways, and then we collate all of that, and then it comes into nice pictures like this. And as you can see, the large picture on your screen demonstrates the complaints, compliments, and comments/suggestions. And there's nothing of concern that's on there. There's no big spike in complaints at any point over the last 12 months. They're significantly down from the previous 12 months. And actually the compliments in June outweighed the complaints. And when I come onto the participation slide shortly, and you see the volume of people that are coming through the leisure centres now due to the increased membership base and all the other things that we're offering, that's a slide I'm particularly proud of, because clearly we are getting most things right. Naturally, there's challenges, and we tackle those head on. But yeah, on the whole, we feel we're offering a very, very good service. The picture on the top right-hand corner just demonstrates how quickly we get back to people, which is essentially the bulk of the time is within 2 days. Sometimes that drags out a little bit longer, and that's simply because there's a dialogue between ourselves and the customer. And sometimes we need to look into things before we can say it's been resolved. And then last but not least is the breakdown of activity. So the largest amount of feedback that we've received over the last 12 months has actually been based on our fitness classes and fitness proposition. That led us to some of our capital works and steered us in the right direction there, but it also steered us to appoint an area fitness manager. So I'm hoping over the next 12 months, that will decrease and actually, or potentially increase, because we might get even more feedback, but basically we're listening to that feedback and responding accordingly. Utilities, successes and impacts. Naturally, the utility crisis had an impact, of course. We've seen some successes. Gas is down year on year by almost 70,000 units, which is also, it was down the previous year by over 100,000. We've completed capital works around air source heat pumps across a number of the centres, which supports in our environmental goals and targets that we have, and naturally the New Forest District Council have as well. And in partnership with the New Forest District Council, we secured swimming pool support funds, a significant amount actually, and that work starts in year 4, and we're close to starting that off now. So there's been some key successes. However, the impact on gas and electricity, as you can see on the screen, has been significant. So when we bid to obviously operate the New Forest District Council venues, we were expecting approximately £470,000 worth of costs in gas and electricity. Unfortunately, this last year, the gas and electricity costs were £922,000, which is significant, I'm sure you agree. And the variance is just over 450,000. Now, we've had fantastic, incredible support from New Forest District Council, and obviously we've invested in all sorts of different capital works and housekeeping, training, all sorts of different things, but with the best will in the world, we can't get that down to what we forecasted. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that quite significant financial overspend on utilities. Participation, so we are significantly up on participation. I appreciate you probably can't quite, well, you might be able to read that on the screen. I can just about read it, but the participation year on year is up very, very nicely. It's actually up over half a million from year 1. There's obviously some COVID and considerations and things around that, but if you compare to last year, we're up something like 28,000 visits a month on average, which is fantastic to see, because that's what we're here for. Last couple of slides. So this is our charity work slide. This was something I was particularly passionate in, and I think I actually sat here last year and committed to doing this, so I'm pleased to share this with you today. The key successes are that we raised over £2,500 for Wear It Pink, which was in line with breast cancer, which we're looking to do again this year. We did a Christmas presents campaign and scheme where essentially we worked with our partners, but primarily our customers, where we were able to donate over 1,000 Christmas presents to children spending time and Christmas in hospital, which was incredibly warming. And I remember dropping the presents off myself with, it must have been 7 or 8 of us all going in cars because they were just full to the brim with Christmas presents, and it was really, really good. And then last but not least, we also worked with some food banks, particularly in Totton, and donated 200 Easter eggs to children that probably wouldn't have been able to have an Easter egg at Easter. So some charity work there that we've done that we'll continue to do. We want to work with NFDC around charities that you partner with. But this is just a bit of a snapshot of the key things that we managed to achieve over the last year. Financial performance. So despite all of those wonderful things, unfortunately, we still made a loss of 320,000. However, that is approximately a £1.1 million swing in the right direction. So when I sat here last year, it was about 1.4 million-ish. So we've made a huge step in the right direction, and I sit here with confidence today to say that this year will be a break even, if not potentially better. So the details on the screen, and I'm happy to go into any detail either at the question points or offline. But I'm particularly proud of that swing in the right direction because, yeah, £1.1 million in the right direction is significant, along with the utility challenges and things that we've had to go alongside it. And last but not least, just some key objectives for this year, which I'll be obviously handing over to Sam now and supporting, of course. But 5 key points are a gym refurbishment at Lymington was planned for 2024. It's actually happened. So it's actually done now. We've signed that off, and we're getting some amazing feedback already. Grow the participation by a minimum of 10%, and hopefully we can do that and some, particularly in the healthy communities arm of the business, because participation in general, it's important to increase that year on year, but those hard to reach groups are the ones that we're particularly focusing on this year. We want to grow our Learn to Swim programme to over 5,000 swimmers, again, primarily children. We want to grow our fitness membership base to over 8,500, and we want to upgrade our customer-facing LMS system to the latest software, which will allow customers to book and experience essentially a better technical journey, whereas at the moment we've got systems in place, but they need upgrading. So we're committing to doing that this year as well. And that is the end of my presentation. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Nice and succinct. First of all, a vote of thanks for myself because New Milton swimming, I have what I call my James Bond experience while swimming up the pool, because there I was, neatly, slowly coming up the pool when suddenly at the other end, in full suit, full scuba gear, a guy popped out of the ground right in front of me, and I thought, it's just like one of those spy films when you see something like that happening. And who knew that all the equipment underneath that swimming pool is serviced by a scuba diver? It was quite a fun experience to see that happening, and the temperatures in the New Milton pool are perfect. Some people complain about it, I know, but I think they're perfect. It was almost too hot. Members, any points anybody would like to raise? Sean?
2 questions. One, with your increased growth, have you found out that maybe there's problems in the gym where people can't gain access to equipment? Or has that not been an issue? There's been no complaints about that?
So far, so good. There's been a couple of comments around treadmills, but no, in general, because when we invested in the new refurbishments, we obviously worked with our partners and we mapped out the most popular kits based on current trends and our demographics. So we've increased some pieces of equipment and decreased others. So where we've seen the increase in memberships, it's not really caused many problems. There's always going to be challenges in peak times. You know, if you go to any gym at sort of 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, that generally speaking is going to be a bit of a challenge, but nothing unusual.
One more question, if I may. Have you found that with your increased membership, the demographics changed, or is it still the same?
No, is the short answer. Obviously, with increased memberships, there's going to be increased groups, but nothing unusual. Probably a slightly younger demographic coming into the newer refurbished gyms, particularly Totton. But yeah, nothing unusual.
Thank you.
Patrick, you've got your mic on. Do you?
Yeah, Chair, I just would like to declare interest because I work with Matt Wickham and his team on refurbishment of some of these leisure centres across the country, but not in the New Forest. So therefore, will not comment on this matter. Thank you.
Hillary.
Yeah, you mentioned about capital projects and for the utilities. I just wondered what more you were doing and whether you were putting in like any solar panels or whether there was any innovations around using the people doing spinning classes and things like that, because I know that other gyms do take energy from those sorts of things. And I was reading today about one gym that's using the spinning and it's servicing a lot of their gym, obviously don't need to spend any money. So if you were heading towards that sort of thing at all.
So solar panels was part of our swimming pool support fund project that we have. I want to say it's definitely over 100,000, isn't it?
112,000.
100. There you go, 112,000. So that is very much underway. We needed to go through a couple of things around because we're going on the roof, so we needed to have some structural surveys done and things like that. That's all been done now. That work can hopefully start to happen at speed. So Applemore Leisure Centre will have a number of solar panels on their roof. In regards to new and initiative sort of ways of driving down utility costs, we're always looking at new things all the time. I think we were first to market for sorry, remind me.
Destratification.
Yes, these strap fans, which essentially push hot air back down onto the water so you don't have to use as much energy to reheat things. So we're always looking at new things, and we've got a dedicated lead across the whole group and she has her own team as well to drive these types of things forward. We also work really closely with PAV around funding support as well. We've won some fantastic funding. We've missed out on some others, but we're constantly looking at ways to source new funding for those types of things.
Additionally, we're going to be installing shower restrictors to reduce the amount of water consumption throughout taking a shower and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say, compliment you. I mean, I'm a New Milton user, and it's a bit pink, but the refurb has worked really well. And I particularly enjoy quite frankly, on the treadmills. It's so nice to have different places to go to now. So I know Buenos Aires and Chicago quite well, to be honest with you. It's almost encouraging me to go there. On the other hand, my son and his wife use the spin room quite a lot. And he had his 40th birthday very recently, and he went in the morning, as you would, and the room was decorated. It was a really nice little touch. These little things make it far more community-oriented rather than just a business. So I think that's my compliments also to the spin team for allowing that to happen. I thought it was a good, nice touch.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Neville Penman from Tottenham North. Could you give me some information or send it on the figures and how the one at Tottenham is performing, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to send anything you require offline, no problem.
Lovely, thank you.
Just a general question, really, on the steady and strong. What do they do in the steady and strong?
That will vary from class to class and participant as well. I'd be happy to send some specific information to you offline. steady and strong, much like chair classes and things like that. It's about stability work and building strength around those types of things, but it will depend on the instructor, the participant. So it's quite bespoke. So I'm happy to.
I just wonder, because I've been listening a lot lately to good health for people who are older, and a lot of it is around keeping their strength so they can still get out of chairs and not fall over and things like that. So I'm assuming it's all sort of around that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So sarcopenia is a big risk as we age, and that strength and that weightlifting, which sounds really scary, doesn't it? But it's if you lift a weight, that is weightlifting. That is the type of thing that they will focus on, definitely.
How do you get more members? You say you've got a lot more members this year, which is fantastic. How have you managed that, and how will you continue? Because I just think I haven't seen anything come up on my Facebook or anything to say come and join. So I'm just wondering how you're doing it.
So we have a digital plan, which is absolutely social. However, naturally, there's hundreds of thousands of people that live within miles of the centres, so they can be targeted. So yeah, we have a digital plan. We have obviously some good old-fashioned marketing. So for example, every resident within, I think it's a 3-mile radius of Lymington, should have received a leaflet in the last week or two to inform them of the gym refurbishment and actually a 3-day offer that is associated with that. So yeah, we have marketing plans that I'm very involved in now in my new position as well from a group perspective. The teams locally will also have local plans. There's like a group campaign planner, and then there's the local planners as well. And in the New Forest, we have dedicated marketing resource to support with not just design, but also the social media stuff and all the actions that come out of those plans. We also do a lot of outreach in terms of, so for example, this year we were at the New Forest show, we were at the New Milton Family Fun Day. So we do a lot of outreach. Essentially, we try and get out there as much as possible to inform people of the services that we provide.
Okay, last question from Sean.
In your opening statement, you mentioned investing in colleagues. Can you give an example of what that looks like?
Yes, so a really good example would be we partner with a company called Les Mills, essentially the gold standard for group training, group exercise. Part of a new partnership that we have with them allows any single Freedom Leisure colleague to upskill to a Les Mills qualification fully funded.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that presentation. It all seems to be going in the right direction. Good news. So thank you very much. I won't ask for you to stay for the rest of the meeting. So I'm sure you'll be grateful to leave, won't you? Yes. Yeah. That's fine. It's good to see you all here, but I don't want to keep you here for the rest of the interesting part of the evening. Okay, we go back to item 4 now, to the My Time and Dibden golf course, basically.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name's Adam. I'm the new centre manager at Dibden, and I've only been here about a month and a half, so bear with me. But I will say that I've been a member of Dibden since I was about 12, so I know the site very well, but quite new to My Time. Ooh. So our first slide is just a little bit of who we are, My Time Active. Basically, we are a social enterprise with the main goal of improving physical and mental well-being within the community across kind of a range of activities, not just golf. We try and offer a little bit different kind of social activities in the clubhouse and kind of as much as we can within our site. Obviously, some other My Time sites have like a gym and a swimming pool, whereas we are mainly golf, but we do try and do other bits as well. Like recently we had our 50th anniversary of the club. So we had like a whole day of non-golfing activities, some golfing activities, trying to show the history and kind of being a hub for the local community, really. So that's that main bit there. This is just a bit of a corporate update. We've had a slight change of leadership and then our corporate plan going into 2023 and beyond. So the same as last year. And those three there, I'll let you read through that. And then, so the next slide, we'll start to go into some performance updates. So for 23-24, we've got our comparison to 22-23. So our membership's gone up 72,000. This year we introduced a 22 to 30-year-old age group. As COVID's been, golf took a real boom and the younger demographic really kind of took off. So that kind of area we weren't really seeing before, just from what I've seen kind of on our memberships. But then that new membership category really kind of took off, and we think a lot of that increase there is that 22 to 30-year-old kind of group. Now our green fees and societies have gone down slightly. From a weather point of view, the winter was really tough, so you miss a few there that kind of will visit other clubs during the winter when their club isn't as good condition. And again, with memberships going up, there's just a little less space. So one goes up, we're expecting the other one to go down a little. F&B is up 24,766. Again, as we've seen a younger demographic come through, they tend to spend more money in the bar. They tend to stay for drinks and a bit of food after, which has been a real positive for us. And the driving range has had a slight increase. For most of last year, we've invested in some new balls and some new driving range mats, kind of improving that customer experience. But towards the end of this year, we reopened the pro shop. I will go into that in a little bit more detail, but the pro shop was a separate building to the clubhouse. And during COVID, we went into just a clubhouse to make it easier for like a one-way system, less people coming into contact. So the clubhouse was shut for kind of a number of years. It was maybe 3 or 4. And as it's like a separate place in the whole building, that's where the range machine was. From a customer experience point of view, it just seemed like a little bit awkward because the pro shop's right near the range, whereas the clubhouse is on the other side. So that as we've reopened that and kind of updated the facilities, we have seen that slowly increase. So that's kind of a nice thing to see. Next one is our expenditure. Our staffing has gone up. Again, as we've opened the pro shop, it now requires more staff to run the whole site. And as we've got out of COVID, we've kind of been lengthening those hours, like in the kitchen, open hours stay a little bit longer. So again, these costs kind of go up as well. The reactive maintenance has gone up. Again, a little bit of that is opening the pro shop as it was left for a number of years. Stuff in there, lights, sockets, just got a bit old as they weren't used, unclean, stuff like that. But the energy has come down. Now, obviously the energy crisis has got a little bit better, but we have been replacing anything we can with kind of energy saving. I know the driving range has got a lot of lights on that we've replaced for LED, and they stay on kind of a number of hours, especially in the winter time when it's dark by sort of 4 or 5. That will stay on for 5-6 hours at a time. So that was a big one. And now they're all LEDs, so a lot more kind of energy saving. And then our performance overall, from last year, our income is up again with a few more members. Sorry, they're the wrong way around. Sorry, that's our budget, not last year. What we budgeted is up, again, with a few more members that we probably weren't expecting to see. Oh, apologies. That's the one. Where was I? So yeah, our income is up against our budget of what we budgeted. Again, with a few more members we probably weren't expecting to see. And our expenditures are a little bit higher. Again, probably costs from our pro shop reopening. We've done a lot with the greenkeeping equipment this year. They've gone through full services and stuff like that. Probably found stuff to repair that we weren't expecting. And then underneath is our budgeted profit and our net profit. So obviously a little bit low where our expenditure is a bit higher. But that number there doesn't include, we have a 14% income that goes to our central costs. So that then comes off that net profit. So we'll go to more specific kind of performance areas. This is our roundage. So this is basically how many rounds are played a month on each course. The blue line there is our 18-hole course and the red line is our 9-hole. Now this year just gone, the winter was really extreme. So as we get from kind of August to November, that's a real steep drop and something we're looking at. We'd like the course to kind of be a bit more withstanding to bad weather and hopefully kind of get our season a little bit longer so we can kind of keep that line a little bit straighter throughout the year. You are expecting a drop off. A lot of people don't play when it gets cold, but if we can keep the golf course a little bit drier, we can kind of keep a lot more people playing. And again, you see a similar trend with our membership, kind of peaks in that summer period just over that 560 mark, and then it really starts to drop off where this year was extreme. We were shut for, I think, 171 days, which is a large number of the year. And you see that if we can keep that golf course open for a little bit longer, we're trying to see those kind of bars stay a little bit more level. This is our completed works in the last year. So like I said, the pro shop refurbishment and reopening, what was in the shop, it used to be like a really big golf shop. And that space now we have turned into an indoor golf studio. Again, with a bit of a younger demographic and seeing where people go. An indoor golf studio not only allows us to give kind of more lessons, we have another pro there teaching now. It does offer another experience for our members and for visitors as well, where if the golf course is wet or if there's poor weather or it's really cold and people just don't fancy it, you can come in and play. And we have seen that be really popular. We're about 3 months in and definitely been growing each month where you get more people know it's there. And even in the good weather, when you're not expecting people to come inside and play, you are still seeing kind of a lot of participation. Again, alongside that, there's a new range ball machine when the pro shop opened and a lot more range balls. We had an issue where if it was busy, we would run out. But now that's not a problem now. Again, it would really kind of annoy some people if they come up and you couldn't get range balls, you couldn't come and practice. It's a big part of their membership. Heading into kind of the clubhouse side, we've had a new kitchen grill in and all the windows in the function room have been kind of replaced. For us, the function side, the events that we can hold was a big part of the clubhouse. And I know the redecoration of the bar as well as earlier on in this year. And for instance, like going back, we've seen like a less and less events going each year where the room probably wasn't quite up to standard. So we know that redecorating it, putting those windows in, and the kitchen and grill as well kind of offers us a bit more food-wise and that side. So a big push for us is getting more events, kind of filling that out throughout the year. And then the other bits there are much more golf course based where bunkers continue to get renovated. For us, it's a little bit of manpower. We don't have the biggest greenkeeping team. So each winter we'll pick 2-3 bunkers that need kind of completely redoing, which involves a lot of time, a lot of expenditure. But that will go out to like the members will come and speak to us about which ones they think we need doing and which ones we think we need doing. And it will be much more of a member kind of discussion. And then again, like I said, all the greenkeeping machinery had in-depth services this year. During the winter when the greenkeepers can't get out and do the kind of maintenance cutting the grass when it's a bit too wet to get the mowers out, they have been finding drainage pipes to clear. They do get clogged up and a little bit of the water that's held on the golf course is some of the drainage pipes aren't quite clear and they don't probably go through a maintenance often enough. So that's an ongoing project for us. And again, a new bunker bike and greens mower are just 2 new machines that kind of help us, one, cut quicker. You can get them done to a better standard. And we've got 2 greens mowers. I think we have 3 now actually. So if one breaks down, we're still safe with 27 holes on course so they can get cut every day in the summer when they need to. And during the winter, as the grass grows a little bit slower, we still have enough to kind of get them done as and when. These are kind of what we feel our strengths and our weaknesses and where we'd like to improve. Now for us, staff is a massive one. We have a 98% staff retention and a lot of the comments we get are that the staff are welcoming and friendly. And a lot of them are part of the local community, which we think is a really big positive. I know a lot of the members coming through the door, it's much more of a family friendly kind of vibe. And we're really keen to keep that going. The drainage we know is a little bit of an issue. Again, what we've noticed in the trends of roundage and memberships, we want to be open for a little bit longer and kind of drier for those longer periods, not only so people can play, but so we can keep the golf course in a better condition. So when people come up to play, They're enjoying it more. They're kind of happy to show off their course that they're a member of, and then outreach into the local community. As I've just started, that there's not much of a social media presence. It's something we really want to build on to kind of reach other areas. I know junior golf is a massive one. Going back a couple of years, we didn't have any junior golfers, and I know one of the pros there has really kind of introduced a program. I think we're up to 40 now. That's a really big push for us, and again, having an indoor facility allows us to not only get more junior golfers in, but beginner golfers. It's quite daunting playing a golf course when you've never played. But indoor, you can kind of beat any ability, and then targets again kind of follows that. We just want to grow that membership, get more people up, get more people playing, and you need that golf course to be open a little bit longer to do that. And then, like I say, more people playing drives that as well. So get a bit more participation alongside the clubhouse being open, more people up there for social events in the evenings, Fridays, Saturdays, where with that function room's now been redecorated, is massive goals for us. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you for that very good rundown. Who knew there was such a thing as a bunker bike? Can't imagine what that looks like, but there we are. Members, any questions?
And you mentioned you were hoping to use social media to try and increase your membership.
Yep.
So are your older members likely to be using social media, and are you going to be using TikTok for the younger ones? How are you going to target it?
The social media side is generally to keep that younger demographic. The older people, we still do that, like say, Peter was saying, that old-fashioned marketing. We still get leaflets out, we still get all the other stuff out, but that side that we feel we miss, that younger demographic that is on the TikTok, that is on the Instagram, you don't see so much. That we have seen an increase in that 22 to 30 membership, but in terms of participation of somebody coming up who's younger that's not a member to come and play, to come and use the range, you don't see that as much, and we feel we could get that participation up with a bit of social media.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hilary?
A couple of questions. I just wondered if you could explain sort of what clubs and competition, do you do competitions, and what club ranges do you have?
We don't get involved in, so we are, Dibden Golf Course is run by my time, but the club competition side is Bramshot Hill, so they're kind of within the club, and that's where you keep your handicap, you get your competitions. Now, we don't typically get too involved with Bramshot Hill, but being a previous member myself, it's something I would like to get more involved in. So like I say, we can advertise, look, come up and play in these competitions and stuff like that. Whereas previously, it's been a little bit of a separate entity. It's not something we've really touched on.
I just know that Lyndhurst Golf Club does a lot.
Yeah.
They've got competitions happening all the time.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of like young people playing with older. It's a complete range.
Yeah.
And they do really well out of it. And what I meant by clubs, it was maybe slightly different in terms of like a kids club or a teenager club, or different types of demographic clubs of people to come and join and learn.
So sorry, just to touch back on competition, we do all of those, but it's just something not my time advertised really. But that's something I would like to do. Like for instance, if somebody walked into Project, I'd like to join the club, you would be joining Dibden, and you just get to play. You wouldn't be part of Bramshot Hill. That's like a separate. Whereas I don't feel they communicate quite as well. But that's something I'd like to touch on. In terms of clubs, I know every Saturday we do a junior club. We have one of the pros there runs a club where they'll do different kind of tees lengths. So if you're very young, you're playing a hole that's very short, but they all play together. That social side of it. And I know very soon he's about to launch a older juniors club. That one we feel is getting to a point where they can get to about 11 or 12, and their ability is kind of getting a bit too much. So the 9 hole's a great area to do that, but we're going to launch like a slightly older kids one, and like you say, we'd like to then go into a young adults one, and I think we team up with Bramshot Hill then to go, look, these young adults can play a competition together, but we don't physically hold the handicaps and stuff, we don't get involved. But again, I would like us to work a bit more together towards that.
My second question was around staff costs. I wondered if you knew what the main staff costs were, and it looks like your staff costs are about 43% of your turnover, which is quite high. Generally, you want to be aiming for 25 to 35%, so it's quite a bit higher than the norm. just wondered if you were sort of finding your feet around your rotas and things because you're doing different hours and what have you, and how would that change?
Shall I try and help Adam out, considering he's only been 4 weeks in? Yeah, yeah, it's driven by a couple of things. Sometimes the year-on-year differences aren't helpful without knowing how many vacancies we were holding the previous year. So I'm sure there's an element of that. The fundamental difference is national living wage going up, because we got hit by, was it 9 to 10%, wasn't it? And then My Time Active, we also created some uplifts from like supervisory level, and anyone where that gap between minimum wage and supervisor stroke head of department was really shrinking. Across the group, I think we applied a 4.5% uplift, but those people in between minimum wage and that, it was anywhere between 4.5% and the 10% of minimum wage. So fundamentally, it's all driven by that. Yep, but the actual structure and the establishment base of that site hasn't changed year on year. It's just growth in the numbers.
Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, I have used the driving range a couple of times with the family. It was quite a great fun. What initiative do you have to attract more families in the club moving forward? Because I think it's kind of a great opportunity there.
Oh, that's a very good question. To attract more families, again, I think there's a social media side, a bit more marketing side that we could do. We don't really push the range. I feel we push memberships quite a lot, but like we said, that side where a group of non-kind of golfers can come and use the range. It's great fun. We don't push that, I feel, and like say in the leaflets we present and the social media marketing we have, it's all kind of golf-based, membership-based stuff. So we could definitely look at kind of getting more marketing towards, like a non-golfer can come up, a non-golfer can come and use the site, and it's still really fun. So yeah,
I think it's quite important, because I'm not a great golfer. I'm a hacker really, but I just go for a great walk. But I can see I don't want to deny my children to take the opportunities to sort of learn to play golf and enjoy it.
Definitely. So definitely something we're going to look at to encourage more non-golfers to the facility to try it, to take on the driving range and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much. So once again, thank you to all of you for coming and giving us some interesting information and answering the questions, which is always a good thing. So please feel free to leave with our gratitude for your attendance.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, the Food and Safety Performance Report. Ben.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here today to talk about our work plan of the Food and Safety team for the work we've done in the previous year, just gone, and then the work we intend to do this coming year. Just as a background, we're quite a small team. I work with 4 main colleagues, and then we also have 2 apprentices who work with us as well, who I'll speak about a little bit. And we're responsible not only for the food work, but for a range of other activities that the council does, licensing of skin piercers, caravan sites, health and safety enforcement, and animal welfare licensing. So quite a wide remit, but today I'm just specifically talking about our food service. Hopefully you've all seen the information I sent through, because I haven't got a presentation on the screen, so I hope that's okay. But just to give you a bit of background about food businesses in the New Forest, we have just over 2,000 food businesses in all in the New Forest, and our role as the food and safety team is to ensure that these businesses are producing and supplying food to customers in a safe way. That's the bottom line, and to achieve that, we inspect these businesses on a periodic, based on risk in a periodic manner. Now, of those 2,000 food businesses, around 1,600 of them are caterers, so that may be restaurants, takeaways, and also smaller caterers. But we also have a range of retailers, manufacturers. It's a very wide range of businesses. The businesses which we visit are categorised based upon their risk. a category from A through to E, where A is a high risk and E is low risk. And what that means is that an A-rated business is probably going to be a large business supplying lots of people, possibly nationally, and that increases risk. But also it's based upon the type of food that they're serving to people. And also that risk, what comes into play with the risk is also whether they're a good business or whether they're a poor business. And when we do an inspection of a business, we look at all these factors and they get their rating for A to E. And that steers how often we go there. So an A-rated business, we're going to go to visit, hopefully, once every 6 months or more frequently, whereas an E-rated business is much lower profile, and we may only be in contact with those once every 3 years, hopefully. So that's the sort of the background. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Food Hygiene Rating Scheme, and which is a scheme which has been running for many years, and it's the green sticker with a numerical score. And that's something that we give to businesses once we've done their inspection. And that doesn't look at the scale of the business and so on. It's based purely on, are they a good business or are they a poor business, essentially. So if you go to one of our businesses and it has a 5 rating, then you can have confidence that it's at the time of its last inspection, it was doing a good job. If anyone is foolish enough to display a 0 or a 1 rating, then last time we went there, it didn't get a good score. In England, it's not a legal requirement to display that sticker, although it is on the Food Standards Agency website. So you probably don't see many 0s and 1s around when you're on your travels. In terms of the inspections that we did last year, we managed to achieve essentially all of our high risk inspections. So that's all our A's, B's, C's, and nearly all of our D-rated businesses. And that's because we prioritise the work we do on where the risk is the greatest. So that they're the businesses, and we've been able to achieve all of those. We didn't achieve everything. We did some of the D, which are on the lower end of the spectrum, didn't get inspected, and of the E's, which are our lowest risk businesses, places like often cake makers and small scale businesses, we didn't get to, well, we got to a small proportion of those. And part of the reason for that is that at the moment we're resource light, I guess I'd say. We haven't got all the staff, we're not fully resourced. There are various reasons for that, but probably the key reason being that there is a national shortage of qualified people who can do the inspections. So it has been a challenge for us, but I am really pleased that despite that, and despite having the sort of relatively low resource, we were nevertheless able to do our high risk interventions. So in terms of safeguarding the public, we have no concerns that was achieved. And we hope to be able to do that next year as well. I think, there are challenges ahead with some of our staff maybe seeking to retire or other things, but we are hoping to be able to recruit as well. What we will try to do is to do our highest risk interventions. The Food Standards Agency has given us, the Food Standards Agency recognises the pressure which local authorities are under, and as a result of that, we are able to work in slightly more innovative ways, perhaps, to achieve the same outcomes. And we are trying to do that, to sort of maximise the resources that we have. And that revolves around whether we do a sort of full inspection or whether it's some sort of partial audit or other intervention. We can also do sort of speak with businesses remotely on certain circumstances and get information sufficiently to be able to give them a score. Our staff have also been doing overtime and flexible working, and we have used contractors to sort of make up our backlog. So that's what's kind of going on. We've also, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we've been able to recruit 2 apprentices into the team, and they're doing a 4-year degree in environmental health, which is, I mentioned that there's a shortage of qualified staff, so we're being able to train up some new people and they've now done their first year of their course. It's going really well, and they're being an amazing asset to our team, because whilst they can't do all of our inspections yet, they add lots of value. So they're able to do some sampling for us. They're able to do some revisits for us, and of course they're shadowing us with the work that we're doing. So things are really positive looking forward, I'd say, overall. So whilst sort of to summarise what I've said, really pleased that we've been able to do all of our highest risk work. There are challenges ahead, and largely around our lower risk work. So, probably one of the messages I would say is that as things stand, we can't deliver everything that we might want to, but we can deliver the high risk work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. A number of years back now, and I think it shows that I've been around a little while, but I remember going out with some of the team on food inspections, and it was one of the biggest eye-openers I ever had. The complexity of the work they do when they go into a restaurant, and unannounced on occasion as well. They're obviously always welcome unannounced. So there's challenges in the amount of tact and diplomacy they sometimes have to deploy as well. But it's when you see how long an inspection takes, the degree of expertise. I think when you look at the figures that we've just got in the report, I think that small team is actually doing a brilliant job for us. So I'm sure members would all like to make sure that Joe passes on to the whole team our gratitude for the work they're doing. And the other thing that I was pleased to have highlighted to me the other day was the fact that this is another example of where we're actually employing apprentices within the council, and helping to fill a national shortage of food safety officers. And here we are showing a brilliant example of how to bring people on a 4-year degree course and having the opportunity to train on the job in the New Forest. And I think that's absolutely fabulous. And that's not just the only example we've got of apprentices there, but it's good to see them in this team. So I'm delighted to see this report and actually hear from Ben today with all the hard work they do, which of course also keeps us all safe when we go out and eat ourselves, because I'm sure we all check the little green thing, don't we? Sticker. Any member wish to ask a question? Sure.
It's brilliant about the scheme. But as part of your succession planning, because you've got a small team, is there any plans to extend the apprenticeship scheme?
It's something we'd like to do. Obviously, the actual existing team needs to be sufficiently large to be able to offer apprentices a good level of training. So there is a bit of a juggle to be had there, but certainly based upon the apprentices we currently have, is something we'd like to explore further, yes.
And second question, it's relating to the remote access inspections. Is that really just answering questions, or is it getting to like video where they're actually working and what's going on?
Sorry, I don't think I understood your question.
Sorry. One of the assessments, I think it was in section 11, talking about the Food Standards Agency is trialling remote access inspections. So is that just answering questions over the phone, or is that them standing up with their video call and actually showing you?
It's actually a bit of both. I mean, this would be reserved for the lower risk businesses. Yeah. I think there's always the intention that we would visit the higher risk businesses. But yeah, to some extent, it can be a matter of, using technology and saying, show us your kitchen almost, and literally they'll be in their kitchen with their smartphone or whatever and show us the structure of their kitchen so we can make a judgment on cleaning and so on. So, things like that are we're not fully there yet, but it's certainly being used by some people.
Yeah, I think the thing I would add to that as well is during COVID, obviously we weren't going out and doing as many inspections, so it gave us the opportunity to trial different techniques, and some of the things we did was get them to send their paperwork in. So instead of looking at that while we were on site, we'd look at that, or maybe ask them to complete a questionnaire with set questions so that we could actually get a good understanding of the business before we went out. And then you're very targeted when you go in, that exactly what you want to look at based on the paperwork you've got. So there's quite a few different options that we look at. And also, as Ben has said, we do quite a lot of sampling, and those results give us indications on which businesses are sort of managing hygiene, and it sort of gives you a bit more of an indication of what you might want to look at.
Thank you.
Is it a legal requirement to have like degree level to do the food safety checks?
There are a couple of routes into being a food safety inspector. Environmental health degree is one of them, but there is another one, but it is a professional qualification which takes a number of years regardless. The environmental health degree it gives you a good rounded qualification. So I think we think certainly at the moment it's the best one to go for with the apprentices. But yeah, there are other options.
But you have to have that a qualification like that
Yes.
to be able to do it.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is just that I ran a restaurant, so for years I had to do all of the work, fill in my Better Safe Food book and do all my stickers and clean everything and have the right cloths, etc. And be reviewed every few years. And I was just thinking, when I sold my business, well, that would be a nice job. I could go and do that because I know what I'm doing. I know what I've got to do. I could go and check other people, but I can't. So I'm not surprised you've got a shortage because it just seems daft that someone who's had to do it for the last 10 years isn't allowed to then and go and review other people. And I also was qualified to bake at home, so I did fill in all the forms and send all the photos off. So I've done all the processes. But I just thought that's really weird that you're not, you need a specific.
I think it's a really valid point, and I think it's something that a lot of local authorities are feeding back to the Food Standards Agency and saying, because they've got a really specific competency framework that we all have to work to, it's really hard to encourage people into the profession that have got some really good skills. And we quite often find people who've been in the catering trade who are really interested. They see the role of an EHO, they understand what we do, and they think, oh, this is something we'd be quite interested in getting involved in. But they still need to do the further steps, the further qualifications, because that's, at the moment, what is in the code of practice and the requirement. But yeah, there's a lot of other skills that people could bring to the profession.
I think there'd be loads of people my age that have been running restaurants and hotels and pubs that would be absolutely love just to go out and review other people. Yeah. It's such a shame, isn't it? And my second question, I didn't, when I read through the documentation, I didn't see anything that said when you review when a business changes hands. And I just wondered what time frame you do then, because I know when I took over the business, when I bought it, I was reviewed really quickly. I would say probably too quickly, because I'd only been in 2 weeks and I hadn't had a chance to write all my documentation. But I know when I sold my business, I don't think anybody's actually been in since, and that was 7 months ago. So I just wonder what the time frame is for that.
So yeah, I mean the duty lies with the business to tell us if they close, and certainly a new one starting has to let us know. But assuming all goes well and they do let us know, they're supposed to tell us 28 days before they commence trading, and then in an ideal world we will get to them in those 28 days. That's the intention. However, due to resource issues, what we're currently doing is we are triaging all new registrations coming in. We're contacting the business. We're sending them a questionnaire to find out a bit more about what they're doing. And then that helps us to prioritise which ones we go to first. You may find there'll be some very low risk cake makers who registered, 2 months ago we haven't been to yet. Thank you.
Janet?
You mentioned that you weren't going to be able to get around all the D and E inspections. Is there a legal minimum frequency that you have to do them, and is there a danger that we might not meet that legal minimum?
So the code of practice, which is issued by the Food Standards Agency, does indeed give a minimum time frame. So for a D-rated business, we should visit every 2 years. For a E-rated business, it should be once every 3 years. And I think I mentioned in able to fulfil that properly. So were we to be audited by the Food Standards Agency, we would explain the situation to them. But from our point of view, I remain confident that we are achieving the highest risk. We are making sure that where consumers are at risk, we are making sure that those inspections are undertaken, and we are working hard to be able to, via the apprentices and other mechanisms to recruit more people.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd add, is that we have got alternative methods that we're looking at as we move forward to make sure that we can address some of the inspections that still need to be completed. I think the other thing I'd say is, following COVID, all of the local authorities are in exactly the same position. In fact, we're probably in a slightly better position to some of our neighbouring authorities. So, this is something that the Food Standards Agency are fully aware of, that the lower risk inspections are not being completed by the majority of local authorities. And one of the reasons for that, like we say, is the national shortage of officers to actually go out doing those visits. But yeah, we are probably in a slightly better position than a lot of neighbouring authorities.
Okay. Thank you, members. Thank you for that presentation, Ben and Joe. I think you're highlighting how it's a balancing act, isn't it? Making sure that we manage all the risks, but actually get as much of the work done within the resources we've got. And national shortages, apprentices, we're actually achieving here. And Hilary, as a former restaurateur, how difficult it is for some of the establishments to actually follow all the rules, because there's a lot more paperwork than people realise. So I think it's the fact that so many of our businesses that haven't been visited actually achieve that highest standard is actually a credit to our businesses in the forest, the dedication they take to achieve that, and the whole system seems to work well. So we're a good place to come if you want to eat. So that's for the YouTubers who are watching us tonight. Okay, we'll move on now, thank you, to item 7, the greener housing annual review. Sophie.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an update on progress toward achieving the 4 priorities of the greener housing strategy. Our first priority focuses on the council's housing stock in particular, and over the last 12 months we've seen a need to embed retrofit and decarbonisation into our day-to-day activities. So we've made some changes to staffing to allow us to amalgamate 2 job titles, and that's allowing us to have a decarbonisation and planned manager role. And that will further help us to embed retrofit into our daily activities. So they currently undertake a lot of our planned work, so roofing, windows. By amalgamating those 2, the focus will be clearly on that decarbonisation and retrofit. We continue to prioritise our worst performing homes to achieving energy performance band C by 2030. And to reach our net zero carbon goals by 2050, and that continues to be a theme throughout the strategy. In the last 12 months, we've improved a total of 347 homes to reach that EPC 2030 target, which reduces the overall total homes to get to EPC band C to 2,828. While this is still a lot of homes, we do have 5 full financial years to achieve that in, and that can be achieved in a number of ways. So areas like day-to-day repairs, planned works, our voids, and through government funding. Council also has a lot of homes that are heated through gas central heating. And this report brought to your attention that there are planned changes to introduce the new home energy model, which looks to replace EPCs. This change is likely to change the scoring system, which is assigned to gas and electric, making electric renewable technologies and systems like infrared receive more generous scoring.
in turn receiving higher energy performance certificates. But we are waiting for more information to see how gas homes would be affected because of the number of gas homes that we have got. We've also introduced whole house monitoring, which was piloted at Penman House, and the results will be shared in March 2025. And from June, a small number of homes being retrofitted will also receive these environmental sensors, and they monitor humidity, ventilation and poor air quality, so that we can really start to see how retrofitting our existing council homes actually benefits residents. We're currently, we've got 11 employees undergoing a range of courses that will enable them to effectively upgrade buildings and service all of this new technology. So air source heat pump and solar, and members are also going on specific retrofit qualifications. So we really understand how buildings work and how this new technology and installation can be applied successfully. In May, the council was awarded £90,000 for funding. We received funding for the Nutrient and Water Mitigation Fund, which helps broaden our approach to retrofit. So it's also looking at that water efficiency as well, which I think is really positive. The council delivered its bid of 70 homes under the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, which was a 2-year scheme, and that was completed in 12 months, which I think again is testament to the preparation and the skills that have gone into that. We've then received an offer of additional funding because of that completion. So we're looking to complete another 100 homes this year. And again, that will be aimed at the worst performing properties. So E's, F's where we've got them, and those lowest D's. For our priority number 2, which is our new build standards, I won't steal Tim's thunder because I know he has got an update. But the homes being built are being built to proposed future home standards, and they're the ones that the council are actually developing. So that would include Moor Close, Hyde Hospital and Salisbury Road in Totton. Our strategic priority number 3 is our private sector housing. So for that, we've been working and continue to work with local landlords, letting agents and partner landlords. And that's taking place through our local landlord forum. That's grown every time we have one. It gets more and more people, so it's been really successful, and the last one was yesterday. We've launched our Cosy Homes New Forest app, which was released in October 2023, and we continue to promote that. It's a really good source of help and advice of renewable technology and how you can retrofit private households. We've taken part in the Warmer Homes Consortium-led funding scheme, and while the numbers are low, engagement through local authority was the 3rd biggest reason for take-up. And we've done that through New Forest and Ellingham shows, through social media and lettering. We're also part of other funded schemes like EcoFlex, and that really opens up that funding stream to people that otherwise wouldn't be entitled to receive it through the Ofgem-led scheme. And then for strategic priority 4, housing services and operations, in June 2024, the housing service started a year-long project to replace its repairs software. That's really exciting. I think it's going to make a real difference. We'll be able to use the latest technologies. It will really reduce paper-based activities that currently take us a long time. And it will also really improve customer self-service, which I think will be really important. It will integrate with our current locator housing system and again improve that data capture that we need to really get to know our residents. And we're also completing a full stock edition of our garages. so that we will have a much better idea of what to do with them in the next 12 months. So that's everything from me. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Good rundown there. I mean, I think there's lots of challenges with the greener housing. And some of the figures in it are fairly eye-watering when you read through. I just, when you look at the our own housing properties and the future home standard, I think anybody who went out on the housing visits earlier on, well, a couple of months ago now, would have recognised the sheer quality that's going into the builds that we're completing. And yeah, I was really impressed with the whole standards, and I think it's a credit to our staff and our contractors that they're building to such high standards, and it's about the highest we can expect to achieve. The next level up, I think, is fairly impossible, but never say never. And the other thing I'd like to point out, when looking in the report, about how again, this is another example of how we're investing in our staff, because if you look at paragraph 28, we've got members of the housing team who are going to study level 5 diplomas, which I think is a fairly high level diploma, in retrofit coordination and risk management. Well, that's seems to be a great course to go on, but yeah, retrofit coordination. I'm sure we never had that when I was at school. But again, a good example of how we're investing in staff and actually looking to see how we can, professionally change the quality and standards of our housing stock, and have people who know and have taken the courses and have the understanding to make sure we get the best quality of all. So some good news in the report as well. Members, questions? Sean?
Two questions. One, we're investing in our staff, that's great. How are we going to make sure that we retain them so they're not poached by like commercial organisations? Because it's not just us who are looking to do retrofits, it will be presumably commercial organisations too.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult one, making it a great place to work. We've got our corporate plan, our transformation journey. There's a lot of innovation and excitement at the moment, and I think that's all you can want. People will always leave a business through training. It's not a reason not to give them the training. So.
And second question, if I may. I know you're doing it with the buildings that is non-standard construction, but at what point, considering the age of some of our properties, do we say it's just not economic to retrofit?
Yeah, well, I mean, we will fully assess individual properties, especially when it comes to non-traditional properties, because with retrofit, you have to take into account of the occupants and that individual building and how that performs. So by doing that and using the modelling software that we do have, we have a really good picture of how much these homes are going to cost. And we've also done a couple of pilots, which you may have seen. So we have costs for that as well. We know they are going to be expensive, and we will present that information to council.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at paragraph 45, which is to do with the HUG2 home user grant. And there's only, you mentioned that you thought the number of applications wasn't very high. You say there's 103 applications, but only 21 properties completed and none partially completed, which seems very low related to the number of homes in the district, which would qualify based on the EPC rating anyway. So I wondered why you think that is, whether it's because the application process is perhaps too difficult, too many hoops to jump through, or maybe the grant funding is not sufficient so people still can't afford to make the upgrades. Do you have any idea why that would be?
Well, it focuses on off-gas properties, so that reduces the number of people eligible. You can do it if you live in a park home, but it can be quite complicated. So again, that reduces it further. There is new waves of funding coming out. This will end in March 2025. They are addressing your concerns, and the next wave of that particular funding should open that up to more people. So I think they are listening to the things that aren't perfect and making those changes. And we will do everything we can to promote those.
It says that there's 2,828 homes left to do by 2030, which is 471 a year. Is that achievable? Will it get easier?
Yeah, so most of it is D-rated, and quite a lot of those are a very small step away from being D. Because we're getting better and better at capturing those improvements through our asset database, we can incrementally improve them when controls break, or we can make quite small changes that have quite a profound effect over several years. So I think the key is making sure our asset and the information that we're collecting is brilliant, so that we can show those incremental improvements. And 277 homes were improved through that method without us doing any extra work and no extra cost. Yeah. No, it's all right.
I'm conscious that when we're in planning committee, we've got new developments coming forward where some of the housing is going to be council housing from the developer. But when we ask them the questions about are they going to have air source heat pumps or solar panels, they're saying no, because that's not part of building regs at the moment. So when those come on stream to the council, should they, under current building regs, be a CB, or will we have to retrofit those as well?
We probably will have to retrofit them, especially the ones coming over with gas boilers. However, the technology is moving so quickly, and there are changes to energy performance certificates coming through. I think the priority is grabbing those homes, so we've got more homes for people in our district, and then we will deal with the best and most cost-effective way of retrofitting as and when they come up.
Just conscious that that's an added cost for the council to pick up later, and it lets the developer off.
Yeah, it's really
cover that point. You're raising the value thing, but because you're overlapping into the planning rules and as well, and I know you. Yeah, those are there. Richard, do you want to come in on that?
If I direct it to Tim.
Who are we going to Tim? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah. Okay. Happy to comment on that. Yes. It's a tension, and it's very difficult for us because when those developers build those homes, we have a choice to buy them or not. And we have competing or conflicting priorities in a sense, which is, do we walk away from this and then another provider, other than the council, will provide those homes and have to do the same things that we do? And unfortunately, until building regulations change, and we're expecting them to change in 2025, but we'll see, but that's a target time. That is the realities of the choices that we make. The choices that we're making at the moment, and Sophie's kind of alluding to it, is the right thing or the best thing to do is to take those properties on. They are being built to good standards relative to where we were, because the building regulations were improved again, I think in 2021, so that they are more energy efficient than they were. And some of the developers that we're talking to are starting to make provision for air source heat pumps in their own stock. The more that gets rolled out, the more they will be buying in quantity, the more likely we are to get that being rolled out to the affordable housing.
Yeah, it's just, we notice as a committee that some developers are brilliant and they are solar panels, air source heat pumps, excellent, and others not at all. It gets a bit frustrating, but even worse for you.
Thank you. I can assure you, because when decisions are made about whether purchases go ahead, the sums and the way in which the calculations are are made are, they are well and truly scrutinised, and a whole business plan goes into making those decisions, and it is extremely complex. And Tim explains it in detail to us. Okay, I think we've reached that. So, Sorry.
And to ask, is some of our buildings affected by the new Building Safety Act at all, or if?
There's a broad question.
All right.
We have lots of flats, and there are aspects of the Building Safety Act that will affect us. I think it's increased resident engagement, making sure that our communication to residents is very transparent. Where we do have major works, then we're communicating that out to residents in a good way, and that again our recording of information is spot on. So that will help our buildings be safer. So it will affect everything, I think.
Yeah, because I know as a result of Glenfell, it has created quite a lot of bureaucracy, and so all the checks and all that, we have to make sure we squeak it clean.
Yeah, it affects everything. It's ensuring the building is safe regardless of what we do in it.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we're asked to note the progress. I think it's good progress and good news. Okay, item 8, the homelessness update. A presentation with no recommendations.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. This is the homelessness update. The 6-monthly update for homelessness, covering the key areas. As many of you will be aware from the national picture, homelessness is facing lots of challenges at the moment, especially to lots of different authorities with their budgetary concerns. New Forest isn't sheltered from that. However, we do have a very strong position at the moment where things are quite stable. And I'll come to some of those areas as we go. So homelessness prevention remains the key priority. Keeping people in their homes or finding them another accommodation before they're homeless is always the key priority. It's the challenge, there's no doubt about it. But the solutions to those areas include, arranging, having discussions with landlords or current landlords to try and keep people in their homes, finding out, the actual reasons why the landlords are serving notice or planning on serving notice. And as I said, each kind of client has a different, it's very different complex challenges. However, in August, we did secure accommodation for 6 months or longer for 6 households. We were able to house 3 for 12 months or more, and we were able to keep 2 households to remain in their existing accommodation for 12 months or more, which is always the preferred outcome. The key reasons for evictions and homelessness remain, and they have done for a while, remain rent increases in the private sector, which then causes affordability and the ability to make rent payments for those people residing in those, and needing to leave family accommodation. The use of emergency accommodation is needed. It's not the preferred route, but it's something that we must use to meet people's crisis, or if they need to stay in a particular area. However, the use of that accommodation is constantly reviewed, especially bearing in mind the needs of that household. So in August, we had 59 households needing accommodation across the district, and we always take into account their need for social and their support needs, schools, if they have children, those kind of things that we always take into consideration. Talking to families, actually, with the need for emergency accommodation, the number of families with children using emergency accommodation has remained quite stable. Just there are fluctuations, of course, throughout the year, but it's a fairly stable number, and that's the backdrop of the national picture. We have ages of children in emergency accommodation aged between 1 month and 18 years old. However, when you consider the family household, we do have adult children staying with their adult parents, of course. So that's sometimes a complex issue to deal with, because actually some of the numbers of households are quite big, and actually finding emergency accommodation which is suitable for their needs remains a challenge. And obviously we try to limit the use of emergency accommodation. It is needed, yes, but we try to keep that period as short as possible. I'll put some information on there about the kind of ages and who stay with parents in emergency accommodation. As I said, many local authorities are experiencing huge budgetary concerns. As I said, we're not sheltered from that. However, our current spending is within expected targets. It's closely monitored. We bear in mind we review each placement of bed and breakfast and emergency accommodation, and we seek the best value from that. I thought I'd let you know that how much we do spend on emergency accommodation, and it averages around about £121,000 a month. That is a gross cost, because we do get some of that back through housing benefit and contributions from those needing to use that stock. But when I say about prevention of homelessness, some of that means seeking accommodation in the private sector, so months in advance for rent or rent deposits. And I'll put some figures on there how much we actually spend on that. Again, that's a gross figure, because we do get some of that back through universal credit or mainly housing benefit payments, and obviously contributions from some of those users of that accommodation. The investment that the council's made in temporary accommodation has meant that we've been able to keep that spending in a stable, expected way, and it really has helped. So, that's a good investment. You'll be aware over the last 3 or 4 years, or actually probably longer than that, 5 years, of rough sleeping and the work under the Rough Sleepers initiative from the government. That funding actually ends in March 2025. There's no doubt about it, that's been a success when we've had in the past numbers of 18, 17 people rough sleeping. The official figure at today, and I double checked it, I did write this presentation a few weeks ago, but the actual number today is 0. However, if you asked that last week, it might have been 2 or 3. It does fluctuate, but we have a really good understanding of who is rough sleeping. We have had a number of successes, and one particular long-term rough sleeper in the district is actually now living in a council accommodation, and with the right support, he's off the streets in safe, secure home, and it's a real success. And actually, the Rough Sleepers Initiative team were particularly happy with that one, as we all were. The number of verified rough sleepers, as I said, fluctuates through the year, and we do we carry out a physical account later on in the year. Councillor Davis came out with us last year, and actually we go to areas that we know there would be rough sleepers, but also we go to areas that we don't know. So actually we use that time to verify people, to see if they are on the streets, and actually look in our areas that we expect them, and other areas too. It's a very important role, and because we feed those numbers back to the government. Again, the number of rough sleeping is actually nationally increasing, so local area is a success to have very low numbers, and that's recognised by the Rough Sleepers Initiative. There's some information on there, which is one of our dashboards, which does contain a lot of information, and I can answer detailed questions, but it does kind of demonstrate the fluctuations that we see, especially in the use of emergency accommodation, also the household type of the numbers with children, and importantly, the number of families we have in emergency accommodation for 6 weeks or more. That is not something we do that we are proud to see. However, the numbers do reflect the challenges of placing people in long-term temporary accommodation away from emergency accommodation. Some of those reasons are for our need to want to support the families or the households, keeping them in areas that they have support in, they have their schools, their doctors, their needs. So, we do actively work with them to try and find more long-term accommodation, but sometimes, regretfully, we do exceed that number. As I mentioned earlier on, the spend on emergency accommodation does fluctuate. You'll see on that graph the numbers that I mentioned earlier. Housing register, so that's the numbers of people applying to join our register, wanting to apply for social housing, whether it's owned by New Forest District Council or our registered providers. You'll see on the left-hand side that the number of people applying for our register is increasing month on month, year on year. It's increasing, and the actual complete number at the moment is 2,061. You'll see the different numbers in banding. So banding is the highest priority of the people in the most highest need for housing. Again, it's 36, and the people in the lowest band are 933. I think you agree that's a large number. And when you compare it to the graph on the right-hand side, where the numbers of properties we're actually allocating, so for example, as I said, we have 36 people in band 1 in the register. We housed last month 3 from band 1 register. And you can see the numbers going over across. You can see how that demand is increasing, but we obviously still letting limited numbers. As I said, that's across all of our RPs and our own stock as well. We do nominate and allocate our own stock and housing associations as quick as we can. Sometimes things, for example, the need for disabled adaptions kind of slow that process down, but it's such an important task that we get that right. So we make sure that the accommodation is right for the individual. You'll be aware of the ongoing Homes for Ukraine scheme, and the numbers of families remaining with hosts have reduced. As it says that there's 54 families remaining with hosts. We have provided accommodation for 10 families in our own stock. We own it. However, that is through the Local Authority Housing Fund, which is grants money that we've applied for and successfully received from the government. We've also successfully helped 46 families into the private sector accommodation who are continuing to receive our support. We do get trickles of new approaches from family members of those in the UK. Those family members are in Ukraine and they're wanting to come over to here, be with their families. A few numbers through there, but so that is an issue. But I think one of the biggest challenges remain about the future of the host thank you payments. So that's a amount of money that hosts receive monthly from Hampshire County Council for, as a thank you payment for hosting guests. There's a question mark over that and what the future of that looks like. So I've raised it as a potential challenge because, if the number of hosts decide they can't or don't want to continue to be in a host, that might present challenges. However, we have really good processes. We've got a great team of officers who are assisting those, and obviously some solutions in case that happens. Another major area you would have seen from the media over the last few weeks, potentially months actually, is the accommodation for ex-offenders. Now there's kind of two areas there. There's the ongoing project or scheme, shall I say, of the accommodation for ex-offenders to improve that process, which I've described in the past. However, you'll know that there was a plan to reduce the overall prison population. A lot of that in the media, and however, thankfully, the amount of prison releases in this area was a lot lower than we were expecting. We were expected to, well, the figure was unknown actually, but from the south central area, it was up to 150. Overall, that was 89, and we received 3. We're expecting a similar number in October in the next phase. And again, that support for those clients is great. We've got a really good member of the team who is dedicated to supporting those clients. As you might expect, a very challenging client group, because some people have been in prison for a long time or even a short term, and have they had time to rehabilitate and ready to come back into society? As I said, we do some really great work on that. As I said, the accommodation for ex-offender scheme is ongoing anyway, and actually we did have a target to house 24 ex-offenders within the 2 years of the scheme, but you'll see that we've already housed 18 of those of that client group, which is a success, and many of those have gone on to successfully rent private sector tenancies, gain employment, and support around them. It's a really good scheme, that. There's a couple more things. As I said, the Rough Sleepers initiative has been a success for us. However, that funding is due to end in March 2025. The review of that service to continue to prevent rough sleeping, support those in transitional accommodation, and those people needing extra support when rough sleeping or finding private sector accommodation. The review of that has been undertaken, and the final outcomes of how that looks is to be agreed. But it's something that we want to continue, because we've got really low numbers of rough sleepers now, and I think that's a success and something we want to continue. We also work with partners across the district to assist us. I mentioned the crossings; they're a good project on the waterside area, and we have close links with them. We provide training with their teams and a presence in some of their support groups. You'll remember earlier on in the year when we had an audit of the homelessness prevention and relief teams. It was demonstrated that we have a reasonable assurance of generally sound system of governance, risk management and control in place already. Some of the recommendations for improvement have were identified and have already been acted upon or planned to do so. You'll also know about the homelessness and rough sleeping strategy is to be reviewed and refreshed for the next 5 years. Updated national guidance is expected with the budget in October, and which will no doubt provide new priorities and solutions, hopefully.
Thanks, Chris. Very comprehensive update again there. Well, we'll never be in an ideal situation, but I think what we do is to our credit, especially when I think where we were 5-6 years ago, and every way we've come forward, it's a massive improvement. And once again, can we thank the whole team for the work that they put in. Members, a bit conscious of the time, so I will go for questions, but can we keep it relatively brief? They're taking the. We will note that report. Thank you. The hint, of course, was in terms of time. We now have Tim coming on for the housing strategy and HRA acquisition update. It's a presentation with no recommendations again, and Tim is going to finish this in record time.
Thank you, Chairman, for setting me up. Let's start by getting connected to the system. Should be. Have you got nothing? Okay. Karen, would you mind? Thank you. Chairman, we have a backup plan. Karen, I sent Karen my presentation a little earlier.
You're solid on none of this.
I will indeed. I'll leave you, Karen, to use your intuition when to change the slides, which could be.
a cheeky question while we're waiting?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. Thanks.
Okay, Chairman, sorry, Karen, you're getting there. Oh, right, jolly good. Yes, PDF is fine, if you do that full screen. Okay. Yeah, sure. That's better. Thank you. Got there. Well done. Perfect. Chairman, my apologies first of all that you didn't have the slides before. Obviously, doing these every 6 months means that I wanted to be as up to date as I could. So even today, I was sort of busy adding bits and changing bits and putting things in that have only literally been agreed today. So my apologies for that. So we'll move on. The first scheme that I just want to talk about is community more than housing or not housing. And my team don't just do new builds. We do quite a number of different projects. And autumn last year, we were asked to get involved with the refurbishment project at St George's Hall. And if you carry on, thank you. We just click through these. So forgive me, I'm not sure how many of you will know about the St George's Hall at Calshot or its history. But it has got a long history. It was built in around about 1913. It is used today, but it's in quite in urgent need of refurbishment and modernisation, as the slide says. Calshot is a community which I think in Forley Parish is one of those areas of social deprivation that we have in the New Forest district. And I think it was recognised probably a year ago that refurbishments and improvements to this hall would actually be a real bonus to that community. And one of our colleagues in health and well-being did some work with the community to find out what their aspirations might be if we carried out some improvements, and that list that you can see in front of you was actually identified. If you click again, thank you. So again, not sure how familiar you will be with this, but the black is the hall itself. And then the open space to the left-hand side is just open ground at the moment. Now, there is a children's play area in Tristan Close, just around the corner, but there's no provision for young people. So when we were looking at the project, we were very keen that there would be some provision for teenagers to actually be included in the project. And just click again, sorry, just to give you an insight into the state of the inside of St George's Hall. And actually those are quite good images, but I think by the time it was we got to it last autumn, I think it was in probably worse condition, but there was no disabled adapted toilet there. There's a small kitchen, and one of those things if you picked up on the list was that there was an aspiration for possibly cooking, training, education around that. Food larder, I think, is held in Calshot Hall, and that was seen as being a complementary activity if it could be included. The chaplain's room, well, if you click again, actually, I'll talk about the chaplain's hall, but in a moment. So again, around this time last year, we secured a significant contribution in grant funding through that COVID-related management fund that was unspent, and we had approval to put that into the scheme. We also put in a bid around about this time last year for the Rural Prosperity Fund. That was successful, and that gave us a total contribution of 375 to cover both internal and external phases. And I'll go back to the external phases in a moment. And again, thank you, Richard. So what you're looking at there is actually the proposed improvements to the hall. When we came up with plans, what was recognised, larger kitchen, also to provide a disabled access toilet and changing room. There are some changes that you can't appreciate, but the hall was enlarged to make it a regular space. And the aspiration was also to improve the chaplain's room on the right-hand side as well to provide a meeting room. And again, thank you, Richard. So, works commenced in May this year. One of our building contractors on our framework, PALS, commenced the work. And again, move on, Richard. You can see the works underway. It was a very significant project. In actual fact, if you go on again, Richard, you can see the list of works that were carried out as part of that project. Very extensive, and quite a number of not just refurbishment, but additions and improvements made to give that hall a very long future life, basically. Also improving and enhancing the energy performance of the building, which as it was pretty poor and behind the times. So it's had additional insulation, photovoltaic panels on the roof with an inverter so that that electric is feeding into the cost of running the hall. But also on the outside, I'll just pick up a couple of points. It was recognised that provision for younger people would be important, some sort of shelter for the young people to hang around in, if you like, out of hours, but particularly skate ramps was something that they had aspired to. We were very fortunate that we had the budget to do that. What we also recognised as part of the project was being observation or having CCTV would be important for that particular scheme and that locality where there have been fly tipping issues in the past. And again, move on, please, Richard. So very quickly, this is now the finished hall, has been finished and literally handed over this week. And again, Richard, thank you. And you can see the improvements, I think, that have been made. Hopefully you can get the picture there. Now, just a point here, this is very, very much a corporate project. My team have been involved in overseeing the building contracts and those works, but there's a raft of officers that have been involved in this, and it would only be right to mention them as well. You know, from grounds maintenance, cemeteries, I haven't mentioned the cemetery next door, economic development and their assistance with securing the grants, and also buildings and facilities management. So there's been it's a really corporate project. So move on. Talk about housing schemes. So quickly through some points here. Completion of our last home at Burgate in Fordingbridge. It's a one-bedroom flat over the garage for shared ownership. Completed end of last month, early this month. Can't remember the exact date. And again, Richard, thank you. And more close, not yet complete, but really very well advanced. I took those photographs about 10 days ago, perhaps. Talked about already this evening, being built to the Future Home Standard. Total of 16 homes, 11 rented. And of those 11 rented, 2 of them are wheelchair accessible flats in the block. And 5 of them have been built to adaptable, what's called M42 standards, so that if they do need to be used or occupied by people with limited mobility in the future, we've got that built into them. 5 shared ownership, and Councillor Davis, I won't say too much about the shared ownership, because I think you're going to pick up on it in a moment, but we have had a lot of interest, shall we put it that way, in shared ownership coming through, and with shared ownership in mind to say that we have made a couple of policy revisions to our shared ownership policy, which was required of Homes England. Move on again, Richard, thank you. Hythe Hospital. Yes, I thought I'd made an error. Main building contract is not that. It's £5 million, my apologies, for the main building contract. 23 homes, that's 15 1- and 2-bedroom flats in 2 blocks that you can pretty much pick up from that photo, and 7 houses. And again, Richard, thank you. Things are really moving forward now. A few shots of really just showing where we are. Groundworks for the blocks is moving, for the flat blocks is all moving forward. And that pile that you can see on the right, as you might expect, is us reusing the crushed concrete from the foundations of the previous building. And again, Richard, thank you. And you can't quite see our portfolio holder there, I think, very clearly shaking hands, but you can. Okay, you can. So this was a couple of weeks ago, opening event with AJC Homes, who won the building contract, and they were very keen to publicise their involvement with the scheme, and not unreasonably so. So, moving on. Next one, under construction, technically not yet on site, but we are in contract with Amiri Construction. Amiri are the company that's building out more close for us. This is situated just on the edge of Tottenham Town Centre, the old Yellow Dog project, as our leader likes to refer to it, which is going to be demolished. And on that and the adjacent vacant land, we are building the scheme that you can see in front of you. We've got planning consent for 20 flats there. And again, as I think Sophie mentioned earlier, being built to the Future Home Standard. And again, thank you, Richard. And you may wonder why you're seeing that. And I don't know if anybody would recognise that, but that is Japanese knotweed. Yes. So unfortunately, one of the realities of that land next door to the Yellow Door project is that, yeah, it's Japanese knotweed, and that is it is the nature of developing that you have these issues and risks that you pick up as you go along. We are seeing those. That will all be dealt with as part of the scheme. Enough said. Move on, Richard. Thank you. Okay. Last time I came to you 6 months ago, I don't think we mentioned this at all, but it was something that was moving forward at that time, and it's really moved on since that time. This is actually the site of the Advertiser and Times head office down in New Milton. So it's their head office and print works that were behind it, and that's situated between Old Milton Road and Compton Road. And what you're looking at in front of you is a complete development. And I'll just actually move on, Richard, and I can just talk to you about the elements of this. You've got the existing headquarters building that was actually only built, I believe, in 2016 or thereabouts. And I think when it was probably designed, somebody had in the back of their mind the possibility of residential one day. And that is now being converted into 10 flats. And then next picture. Thank you, Richard. That's phase 2. That's behind that headquarters building, where there are 7 new 1 and 2 bedroom flats being built. Thank you. And then the third phase.
Tim, can I just come in on the advertise, because members may be aware there was some adverse publicity over the yellow line in. And I'd just like to thank you and actually the developers, Penny Farthing, for the way in which they showed flexibility in what happened and have come to a very good working arrangement with the local community. It was well negotiated and well mediated by yourself.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, the nature of development, and you can't predict these things, and you have to work your way through the problems, but thank you. Okay, so phase 3, again, 6 1 and 2 bedroom flats that are, if you click onto the next slide, please, Richard, you'll see where we are. Things are really moving forward. I didn't say it at the beginning, but it's Penny Farthing Homes, and they came to us and offered this opportunity, and we've worked with them to get into contract. And as you can see on that slide, completion is actually due in November 2025. I would just mention, I skipped over it, but I would just mention that a number of these schemes have actually really benefited from pretty significant contribution of public subsidy from Homes England. We've been very, very fortunate. I think on this scheme, 23 homes, £2.26 million or thereabouts. Richard, and again, thank you. Right, so Local Authority Housing Fund 3. Chris picked up on the Local Authority Housing Fund in his presentation and the contribution that's made, particularly to assisting the Ukrainian families last year, and I think moving into this year as well. And I think some members here will be familiar with that, where we provided 12 homes for Ukrainian and Afghan families under the Afghan Citizen Resettlement Scheme. We secured last year around about, I think, £2 million towards those 12 homes. So there's a new round of this that's been announced in March of this year to assist local authorities meet their housing demands, to reduce the cost of temporary accommodation, and to provide more settled accommodation for those Afghan resettlement families. And click on, please, Richard. Thank you. So under round 3, the council's been awarded just under £1 million to provide 5 homes over the next 2 years, 3 for Afghan citizen resettlement and 2 for temporary accommodation. All of those 5 homes, as per last year, will be delivered through the council's well-established buyback scheme. So this is buying back ex-local authority homes, and we'll be providing those 5 homes for affordable rent. And the decision related to that portfolio holder decision was concluded last week, and only today have I actually sent the signed contract, as it were, agreement back to the Ministry of Housing. So that's good news on that one. Okay, and again, thank you, Richard. Right, quick canter through these new opportunities, what we're looking at the moment and where we are today. So we're very close to entering a contract for a significant Section 106 scheme, and I apologise because this is pre-contract, so you'll understand from a commercial sensitivity point of view, we're not yet able to talk about the details of that, but the next time I come to this meeting in 6 months' time, you'll be made very aware of where we are and who it is. We're proceeding to purchase 2 Section 106 units on a site in the National Park. That's been ongoing for a while, but we're moving forward on those. And then we've got outstanding bids submitted or proposed for 4 further Section 106 schemes. So that question that was asked earlier on about what happens with these private developers and the standards that they're meeting. I mean, the good news is that they are coming to us to invite us to bid for those schemes. But that is a reality check, that we are securing the homes, but there will be that prospect of some retrofitting in the future. Some of the councillors in the room perhaps very interested to know that we are working towards a bid to be submitted for Hythe Police Station. I anticipate that that bid will be submitted by the end of this week, and there's a lot of interest in what happens to that site. Also working on the purchase of another land-led opportunity which would provide us with 8 units. And I just emphasise that where we are looking at land-led opportunities and we're going to build these homes out, we are working towards a future home standard every time. We're talking to Hampshire County Council to review some of their assets in our districts, and I'm alluding to some positive opportunities that we've got with them about land and buildings that they're looking to dispose of. And we're working on proposals for the future of Clay Meadow Depot. And again, thank you, Richard. Parsonage Barn Lane in Ringwood, just to say to you that this is an existing council-owned scheme of 7 bedsits in Ringwood. We got planning permission last year to convert it into 5 self-contained family homes. And the intention of that is going to be, again, for family temporary accommodation. We've made a lot of provision for smaller units of accommodation, and the families was a gap that we needed to fill. We are currently evaluating a number of tenders for that, and we also are proposing to submit a bid to Homes England to get funding towards that. So that is moving forward. I'm not going to get into details on names. It's not appropriate to do it because these 2 schemes are occupied. Again, this evening there was conversation about what happens with existing stock and regeneration when those homes aren't necessarily suitable for retrofitting and such like. My team are getting involved in looking at some of those. Both of those schemes that we're looking at have actually got some of our residents still in occupation. So we're treating that with respect and caution at the moment, not saying too much. Thank you. Penman House, Totton. We've been shortlisted for an Inside Housing Award. National Journal supports and promotes different affordable housing schemes and developments, and we submitted for that earlier in the year. So we've been selected because of the innovative nature of our Penman House scheme. I'm sorry that Neville's not here to hear that, but I'm sure the word will get back, and that's happening at the end of this month. So thank you, Richard. Just on other RP schemes that are coming forward, I was talking to Vivid earlier in the week, and they were confirming they've got a significant number of affordable homes coming forward in our district, which is very good news. And some of those Section 106, but I think some of them are going to be their own developments that are coming forward. That's very good news. And also the photograph again, we attended portfolio holder yet again. We went to Dibden Purlieu for the opening, start on site ceremony at Dibden Purlieu, where Astor are actually building out 25 homes. That shovel remains fairly clean, I think we can safely say, Chairman. Yes, so that's, again, that's our broad relationship with other housing association providers and supporting them in what they're doing. And then the next slide, thank you, next point. So task and finish group, I won't go into too much detail here. Some of the members of this group have been involved in that task and finish group that's now been running for the best part of a year. We're winding up, we're getting towards the end of that process where we were looking at modular build, timber framing, off-site manufacture, all of those technologies that are being talked about as far as the new generation of house building and flat building are concerned. So we were looking at that and affordable home ownership as well. And we'll be reaching conclusions, I think, at the last meeting in November, Chairman. The numbers. I'll make this brief and let everybody go. So what you can see in blue, if you can just see the numbers, and the slides will be circulated for you all, so don't worry about that. What you can see in blue is the council's own completions since 2018, plus homes under construction for years 7 and 8. And it is down the bottom there, but that totals 421. Then in pink, what you're seeing is it pink? I'm not sure, but, yes, but the number of homes where we have high expectation for delivery, and that will add a further 53 by 2026. But then again, I'm starting to look beyond 2026, and you can see that there's another 100 potential in that category as well. And then finally, the section at the bottom, I'm skipping over the highlighted yellow at the moment, but I'm looking at the orange section. And this is the bit that goes up and down. This is our potential pipeline, and it's a bit of a movable feast, because the reality is I could come back to some of you or you tomorrow and say that number's changed significantly. But this is what we're working on. This is where we're trying to find new opportunities. This is where we're making bids, and we're waiting to hear back about those bids. Or we've made bids and we're waiting to hear back on the outcome of those. So that's the status there, but it's a very healthy 262 homes in there. I'm not going to add all of them together, and I just think it's worth referencing the total in the middle, the total in highlighted for the end of 25-26, which is 474, is where we are currently. It is possible that we'll get some windfalls to improve on that, but that is currently where we are on our journey towards 600. Chairman, that's the last slide. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chairman. That was a pretty good, fast run through. Thank you for that. I think the numbers are excellent. I know we set a target of 600, but you've got to remember all the various complex conditions, and also I think members will be surprised about how difficult sometimes it is to deliver certain sites, certain issues. It's not just a matter of saying we're going to build houses there. There's so many complex factors that come into it, including the fact that sometimes we get outbid and things like that. So as much as we'd like to, we're not always able to proceed where we would like to be proceeding. But I think those numbers are excellent. And just stress again, Future Homes standard is what we build to. So those 472 homes have been built to the highest standards, as members have seen when they've travelled around. And I think that's something that we as a council, all members of the council, should be extremely proud of. Any questions for Tim? You're all shaking your head. Janet, yes.
Just that there's been publicity in the news recently about affordable homes standing empty because housing associations don't want to buy them. Does that happen in New Forest District?
Very timely, and I'm quite well researched on that particular point. And the answer in the New Forest District is no. There have been no Section 106 homes that have been built that are sitting empty. However, I think it's fair to say I'm pleased that we've got so many Section 106 opportunities that are coming to us. And I think part of the reason that they're coming to us is because those developers are not getting the same interest from registered providers that they've had in the past. So there's a bit of almost sort of a windfall opportunity for us here. And naturally, because of our role, we're very keen to secure and deliver those planning-led Section 106 affordable homes. So it's that tension again that we talked about earlier about we don't want to say no to these because I'm not sure who else is going to be delivering them if we don't. So those developers, a number of them are saying to me, I know in East Dorset, I can tell you that, I say the names, I don't think it would mind me saying that Penny Farthing Homes have had a problem delivering Section 106 and finding interested housing associations. But it's not far away from us, but at the moment it's not affecting our district.
Okay, thank you. We will note everything and look forward to the next update, Tim.
Could that be a reason why they're a bit reluctant to sometimes provide affordable housing?
No.
No.
I think there's a very, very long history of viability issues. It's just what...
Sometimes no's a good answer, Hilary. Okay. All right. The lead in light of the agenda tonight, the portfolio holders update, which I understand is quite succinct.
Chairman, only you can get away with that. It'll cost you a pint. Obviously, this summer, with so many of you, I enjoyed the housing tour. And once again, I was impressed with the range and variety of housing that NFDC does in fact offer. It is quite stunning. New Forest is a big district and we still haven't seen most of it. There's so much more in the northwest frontier that Janet here will be more than familiar with, and of course Ringwood. In August, I attended a groundbreaking event. You saw the pictures there with AJC at a site in Dibden, which was called Orchard Gate, might be called something else when there's built. Fantastic opportunity, but only came to us through an appeal that we had. Planning here had rejected it, but came to an appeal. The inspector granted it, but it did provide opportunities for 25 homes that are being built to future standard plus. So, I mean, basically, these are 25 awesome homes, fully electric, everything you could think of, even heat pumps and EV charging points. Early this month, as you probably saw with one of those pictures, I did in fact attend Hythe Hospital with a couple of local councillors. This wasn't so much a groundbreaking, it was just seeing the land already set out. Quite impressive speed they're moving, I have to say. But that is also 23 affordable homes, again, all electric, Future Home Standard Plus. I was quite chuffed. I mean, that's 48 new high quality homes in Hythe and Dibden. So I think the locals there will be incredibly lucky to be on the list for those. Last week, as Tim may have intimated, I popped into New Milton Town Hall. That was on Saturday morning. Was it Saturday morning? I can't remember now, Tim. It was last week sometime for a drop-in that Catherine had organised with a couple of IFAs in case anyone was interested in learning about shared ownership, in particular the more close opportunities.
Was it non-work?
People were writing their names down on a sheet of A4. One sheet of A4 was there, and it was half full by the time after 10 minutes. You know, it was the place was rocking, quite frankly. And it's hard to believe that it wasn't only quite a few years ago when it was felt that shared ownership has no future at all. So basically, at 900 hours on the 2nd of October, the website opens for applications. It will close very quickly after that once the list ticks up.
I'm reckoning on 90 seconds.
Chairman, just to add to the point, because perhaps Steve doesn't know, we think we had over 100 people that day. Yeah.
Was it that many in the end?
Yeah, in the end.
I couldn't believe it. It was just, and the leaflets, I have to say, that were produced were fantastic as well. But why wouldn't people be interested in shared ownership? It provides such an excellent opportunity to get on the housing ladder, you know, and fantastic. Quite frankly, it's just been a good summer.
For those who've seen the sums on the shared ownership, it is the most affordable opportunity for people, but it's just a pity we can't meet everyone's need. Questions of the portfolio holder at 8:15. In which case we move on to the work programme. You are invited to give any suggestions of agenda items to myself or Karen. That can be done by email after the meeting rather than now. And you will also note that we now have the meeting dates in the agenda pack on page 3 of the meetings going right the way forward to 2026. And last item on the agenda is any items which I decide are urgent. There are none. Members, thank you for attending. Quite a long, lengthy meeting, but an awful lot of really interesting points and items for us to consider tonight. And I think, just one final praise to our staff there. I think every presentation we've heard tonight has been a good news story, from apprenticeship opportunities within the council, the way we value staff by providing training opportunities, the way we look after some of our community in terms of homelessness. I think that the whole thing is something for both all the staff of the New Forest to be proud of, and also members for coming here and scrutinising it.